Hello and welcome to another video. My name is CJ, the Populist New Yorker, and today we're going to be looking at the polling averages for all of the competitive 2020 states. This map is basically going to be a simulation if the polls are spot on election day, what we could expect. Again, before we start this video, this is not my actual prediction. My actual final prediction will come out in about a week or so, around 2 or 3 days before election day, and that is going to be what I think is actually going to happen on election day. But this is if the polls are 100% spot on. So we're going to start west to east here. We'll start off with the state of Nevada. According to the polling averages here, the state of Nevada looks like it's going to be going to Biden by around 5 or 6 percentage points. So on my scale, that would be considered lean Joe Biden as of right now, which means that Trump could possibly win the state, but it's very unlikely. Interestingly enough, the polls in Nevada are actually closer than the polls in Wisconsin, so that's interesting, and Michigan as well, and we'll get to those states. Moving on to the state of Arizona. Again, this video is simply going to be looking at the polls and filling out if the polls are correct. And so far, the latest polling averages have Trump at down by around 2.5 to 2.9 percentage points. So we're going to make this lean Biden as well. Again, this is a low lead margin. This is almost, tilt if it's below 2. But right now, Biden is only up by around 2 or so in Arizona, which is actually bad news for Joe Biden because he was up much higher earlier on in the race. He was up 4 just about a week or two ago. So now the polling aggregates have him at only around 2. So a little bit of alarm for Joe Biden right now, but nothing too serious as of yet. But again, all Trump has to do is overperform his polls by 3 points and he wins the state. So again, there's that to consider. We'll jump to the state of Colorado. Biden's up basically safe in Colorado. Again, this is based on the polls. It might actually be likely at the end of the day, but we're going to make Colorado safe blue based on the polling aggregates here. We'll look at the state of New Mexico. So far, we only have one aggregate poll, and Biden is up by 11, so that's actually a very high likely margin. So this, again, is based on Wikipedia's poll. Wikipedia compounds averages from RCP, 538, 270 to win, and all that sort of thing. The polling average in Texas is really interesting because we have Trump up by around 2 or 3 points, one where he's only up 0.8. Something I do find that takes a little bit of credibility out of these polls is we have polls from Texas Democrats, Data for Progress, all these other polling agencies. If I see any red ones like Trafalgar, these should all be thrown out because these polls are kind of inherently biased toward one side, and I feel like that's skewing the average. So far the polls are telling us Texas, no. Texas is going to lean to Donald Trump, probably around 4 points. My prediction is I think Trump will win it by around 6 or 7. We can go to Nebraska's second now for the polls, and this should be pretty interesting. This was a suburban district. Trump won by 2 points the last time around. And if we go to the aggregate here, we have all over the place. We have an aggregate all over the place for Nebraska's second. We have lean, tilt, lean. Most of these have it as lean. We'll put it as a lean Joe Biden for now. But again, it's very hard to poll in just one congressional district like that. But again, it's Omaha and the surrounding suburbs. So if Biden is doing better in the suburbs, it wouldn't be surprising that he would do better here in the second district. Moving on up to Minnesota, not Montana. Joe Biden is up by a likely margin consistently. Donald Trump has never led in a Minnesota poll. The only poll where he tied was Trafalgar. I don't really think Minnesota will go. I don't think Minnesota... What the heck? There we go. I don't think Minnesota will go to Trump either way. There were states in 2016 like Pennsylvania and Michigan that were kind of, at least polling-wise, out of reach for the president. But again, when it comes to the race now, there's a lot more polling in Minnesota. It's been very consistent. There's been polls where Trump has led in places like PA, Michigan, Wisconsin. Minnesota, that has not been the case this cycle. But again, this is a map purely on what the polls say. Don't want that. Go to Iowa here. Iowa is actually really, really bizarre. So the polls are telling us that effectively Joe Biden will probably win Iowa by a tilt margin. Now, I don't think that's likely, but again, this is what the polls are telling us. When this is all filled out, it's probably going to go to Biden by a larger margin than I would think, or possibly the polls could swing to Biden even more, but I think there's more likely of a factor of the secret Trump vote than the secret Biden vote. But that's just me. We'll move on to the state of Wisconsin here. Wisconsin, a lot of people have it as likely or lean. Wisconsin's average is shooting up. High single digits, 6.8, 6.1. Effectively, that puts it in the likely category for us. So, strangely enough, let me just see Minnesota again. I might have messed up Minnesota. No, I meant to put Minnesota as likely too. So we have Wisconsin and Minnesota as likely based on the polling, which is really interesting because there was a point in time where Minnesota was actually pretty close and Wisconsin actually was very close, but that, of course, was pre-pandemic. Let's go on to Michigan. Oh, that's ridiculous. Michigan's not safe. And again, Michigan also seems to be likely Joe Biden. Now, something to mention, though, if I haven't said it enough, this is what the polls are telling us. The polls could very well swing to Trump by around 3 or 4 points, perhaps, or the polls could be dead wrong like they were in Wisconsin in 2016. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was up +6 in the aggregate. She lost the state by around 0.8%. So, that's a swing of almost 7 points. So, I'm not discounting the fact that a swing like that could exist, but I'm saying given the circumstances this cycle and the fact that Joe Biden has been up so consistently in these states, I think it is rather unlikely. Let's move on to the state of Ohio. Ohio is narrowly expected to go to Trump by the polling. I would not be surprised if he overperforms this quite a bit. Ohio was once the bellwether of the country, and it might still be. Joe Biden might still win it, or Trump could still win it and win the presidency. This might be the first election in a long time where the president wins Ohio but loses the election. If Trump loses Ohio, he loses the election, no doubt, because Ohio is to the right of other states like Florida, like all these other Rust Belt states, Nevada, etc. So if Trump does lose Ohio, it'll be a very, very bad night for him. We'll go up and we'll move down. We'll do Maine's 2nd district and Maine at large now. Maine was very close in 2016. It only went to Hillary by around 3 percentage points or so. And though we have some really skewed polls, SurveyMonkey is horrendous. They're a horrible polling company. I don't know why anybody puts them on here. They have polls skewed in favor of Democrats by an insane amount, and sometimes skewed toward Republicans in instances where it's just ridiculous. I think their polling methodology just doesn't make any sense and isn't helpful. But anyway, these polls are indicating that Joe Biden will probably win the state of Maine by around anywhere from 10 to 14 points. So we'll give that as a likely margin. And if we scroll down to Maine's 2nd district, it's telling us that Biden is barely going to win it by 0.3%. Now, I personally disagree with that, but for the sake of this video and what this video is trying to convey, we'll give Joe Biden Maine's 2nd district. So far, this has Joe Biden at 260, Trump 181. He basically needs to win every other state. He'll need to win Virginia, too, in this scenario in order to become president. So let's move on down to New Hampshire. New Hampshire this cycle, polling-wise, has been out of Trump's reach for a long time. It's in the high likely margin here, so we'll put New Hampshire to Joe Biden by a likely margin. And I think the real result will probably be more like lean, but it's still, the polling is very bad for the president there as of right now. We'll move on down to the state of Pennsylvania. If we look at the state of Pennsylvania, we have lean and we have likely. For the sake of averaging these all together, it's going to be probably a very high likely margin. Lean margin of around 5.8, 5.9. But Pennsylvania is actually shaping up to be the closest state by the polling in the Rust Belt. If Trump is going to target any state in the Rust Belt, he should focus most of his energy on Pennsylvania, because that's the race a lot of pundits are saying will make or break this race. This is the state everybody should be focused on. This is the Keystone State, and it might turn out to be the key to the White House this time. Moving down to Virginia, for those who are political junkies, it's no surprise that Virginia is going to be, yeah, as I suspected, very heavily for Biden. You kind of average these all together, it's effectively safe. Again, this is the polling average. Trump will probably overperform in some of these states. In some states, he might underperform. He might underperform Texas. Who knows? He might underperform Ohio. But let's move down to the state of North Carolina. North Carolina has gotten super close lately to the point where Joe Biden is barely ahead. And when you average these all together, he's effectively at around 1.8. So he's effectively tilt in the state of North Carolina. It is really remarkable, the two states, Virginia and North Carolina, which have voted together from 1964 to 2008. No, sorry, 2012. 2012 is where they actually differed. How different they are politically. Virginia is effectively a safe blue state now, whereas North Carolina is a toss-up. And these polls are telling us it's going to be tilt Democrat. I personally disagree with that, but again, we're just going to do this based off of the polling. We'll move on down to the state of Georgia, where Donald Trump is effectively ahead. If you average these, it's effectively a toss-up, because these two together is 1, that's 1, and there's a tie. So, I mean, you know, if I were to flip a coin or whatever, I would just say I would give it to Trump very, very narrowly, just because of precedent and just because of the way Georgia has voted. Again, Georgia will probably flip into a purple or even blue state in the future, based on the trends the Republican Party's heading in right now. But even based on this polling, it seems like Georgia will very, very, very narrowly go to President Trump. Finally, we'll look at the state of Florida. Again, another really all-important state. That's BS right there. I hate Niskanen or whoever these people are. They're the most hacky polling agency I've ever seen on any polling site ever. They're so biased in favor of Democrats. Likely D for Florida is absolutely ridiculous. Even in 2008, Florida is very, very, very close. This polling average is telling us that Biden will probably win Florida. By around 2% or so. But again, this is based on the polls. So this map here is effectively what we could expect to see if the polls are spot on. Now, the caveat I will add right now is that the polls are basically never spot on. So, for the Trump supporters in my audience, not to worry. This map is definitely going to change on Election Day. I would be very, very, very shocked if this was the result we saw on Election Day. I think Trump is definitely going to get over 200 electoral votes. I think Biden is going to be under 400 electoral votes, and even the polling is saying that. In fact, I think Biden will be under 320. I could very well see a scenario where both Trump and Biden are in the 200s, and that effectively could be the really close race we're all gearing up for. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this. Again, this was based on the polling aggregates for all the states. I'll be releasing a final prediction video in about a week or so, so stay tuned to that. If you like this video, please thumbs up, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any new videos. That is all today. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.